Hi guys, welcome to our latest podcast. Today we've got good friend Nat, who's joined us. Hi Nat.
Hi, how you going, AJ?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Likewise.
So before we start, I just want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on. I'm here in Balwyn Q on the land of the Wurundjeri, so I pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Okay, so I'm a 55-year-old woman from, and I live in Box Hill, but I'm a Yorta Yorta woman from originally from Shep, and I've been living most of my life down here. We moved here when I was about 6, so most of my life on Naarm. So yeah, it's been a, good life, and yeah.
Cool. So where were you living before? In Shep?
So we were living in Shep when I was up to the age of 6, and then we moved to Melbourne when my dad was a carpenter and he wanted to get into carpentry teaching. So we moved down here to Melbourne so that he could attend Teachers College and get his degree. But at the same time, he was also looking at getting into umpiring. AFL umpiring was VFL back in those days. So it was pretty much a two-pronged thing for him. So, of course, us, the three of us, my mum and my sister and I, we supported him all the way. And, so we moved down here. So I grew up, we moved to Croydon. So I went to Croydon West Primary School. And then I went to Parkwood High School, which is in Park Orchards, which it's now closed down, unfortunately, but that was, it was a good grounding. So, and then I went on to Melbourne Uni to study teaching, and I did a four-year degree there in art craft teaching. But I sort of got to third year and I just thought, I'm not sure whether this is really, really for me. As much as I love doing teaching rounds and all that sort of thing, I've always been into fashion, and I discovered a course at Box Hill TAFE, and that was in clothing manufacture. So once I did my degree and finished that off at Melbourne Uni, and then went on to study for another 18 months at Box Hill. Loved that, and then pretty much got a job straight away after I graduated there at Whole Proof Socks and Underwear, and I was designing socks for I was there for a long time, probably about 17, 18 years, but it was because I really loved the job, and it was just fun. It was, I was designing, but it was also gave me an opportunity to design and then actually go down and knit the product there and then. So you get that instant product just to see how your design turned out. So yeah, I've had a pretty interesting life, and and then I finished up there and got made redundant actually because everything went offshore over to China. So they packed up shop here and went over there, and got made redundant. Thought, what am I going to do? Because I can't not work. I've always been a real, one to work. So I ended up getting just a retail job at David Jones, and did a bit of work there because my kids were in primary school. So I wanted just to do sort of retail hours. And
in the city where David Jones is now.
Beg your pardon, what was that?
Is that in David Jones where it is now in the city?
At Doncaster, so it was close to home, yeah, because my kids were at school in Blackburn, so I sort of dropped them off and then shoot over there and then come back and pick them up, be done at work in time to pick them up, which was good. So it gave us a good sort of, work-life balance there. So I was there for them to support them on the areas that their interests and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
So yeah.
And then into health. How did you get into health?
Oh, look, AJ, it was just one of those things. I kind of got to the age where my daughter was at the age where she didn't need me anymore. She was happy to get the tram to school and stuff. And I just thought, you know what, I really want to do something for myself. But I also had a burning desire to do something within community and help mob. And I'd always had that. I mean, as much as everyone uses it, I did want to give back, and I did want to be involved in community because my exposure I pretty much grew up in a white society, in a white world. So and I didn't really have the experiences of knowing a lot about community. You know, I didn't even really know what a smoking ceremony was until sort of, 5 or 6 years ago, because we've never really done that in my family. And when my parents separated when I was about 18, and so I didn't really have, my dad being Aboriginal, my mum being white, I lived with my mum, so I wasn't really subjected to any sort of community culture or awareness or growing up learning that. So, it's been a really steep learning curve for me now working in health, but it's been really rewarding and it's been such a great job. I've connected with so many people in community, and I absolutely love it. I love seeing patients come in and, they've got a problem, they need our help. And the most rewarding thing is seeing them leave and say, thank you so much. And, there's been plenty of times where they've left and have given me a big hug, and it's just like, that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy and think I've really done my job here. So, yeah.
So how do you define Aboriginality for you?
Aboriginality for me was about, look, I always knew I was Aboriginal, and people would always question it, and I'd be like, yeah, I am. They'd say, oh, you look Italian, and I'd always get that, and I'd hate it because I knew, I knew that I was Aboriginal, and there was no denying that, and so yeah, I think now in my role, and it is an Aboriginal Health Liaison Officer, I feel more empowered and I feel stronger that now that I can, I really identify with being an Aboriginal, and I feel because people at work and in the hospital, I am the Aboriginal person, so that's how they identify me. But I always knew my self-identity, but I always did question it too, because people said, oh, I thought you were this and I thought you were that. And, it was somewhat confusing for me growing up. It was like I didn't really know where I actually fitted. I was like in limbo because I was brought up by my mum predominantly, and then it was almost like if I'd be with my dad, I'd have to sort of, and I was going to an occasion where, it was with community, you'd have to sort of flick the switch and try and, participate with through a cultural lens, and just sort of think, how do I fit in here? So, yeah, I think as I've got older, there's been a lot more clarity, and particularly doing this job as well.
Yeah. Growing up, how much Aboriginal studies did you do at school?
Oh, next to nothing. It was pretty bad, hardly anything. And I think that probably attributes to the fact that I didn't know much either until, just recently about Aboriginal history. And I think the thing is, since starting this role like 5.5 years ago, I've really been a real crusader, trying to get as many books and absorb as much cultural knowledge as I can. Trying to be a sponge, but it's a bit hard when you're older and you've got family commitments and stuff and your brain's all over the place. But it's still, it's I think it's just important for me to know that my ancestors and where I did actually come from.
Do you think school has changed a little bit? Do you think they're actually teaching more, or do you still think they're still struggling to try to work out what to teach and how to teach it?
I think they're probably struggling a little bit, and there's also that fear as well that they're not doing the right thing and that they're going to offend us blackfellas, but I know my aunties, they're all aides in primary schools and go in and do cultural reading and all that sort of thing back up in Shep, and I think about my kids. Just recently they've just gone through secondary school, and Luke's had gone to an amazing school where they just allocate a whole week just to Aboriginal studies, which I think is fantastic. And they're so keen to sort of get the knowledge out there. My daughter's school, they were pretty good, but I still think there needs to be a lot going. I mean, when you compare our school system with sort of, New Zealand's, we've got a long way to go, with what the Maoris have accomplished over there with culture and getting it out there and getting it known.
Yeah. One thing that we do know is like Aboriginal people only go to the hospital mainly when there's something's infected, sore, pussy and enlarged, and normally turn up to get diagnosed in later stages of illness. What are some barriers that prevent Aboriginal people from seeking help and going to like a hospital, for example?
I think it's the fear. I think it's lack of trust and confidence. And I also think it's lack of knowledge, not knowing what services are available too. I mean, that I know with my role, I run an ophthalmology clinic down at the Victorian Aboriginal Health Service, and there's a lot that come in and they say, oh, we didn't even know this existed, and they just needed something basic done, which is basic now, wasn't years ago, but like a cataract surgery. That's something that, is such a simple surgery these days, which is basically a morning procedure. And, I think it's about us. My big thing is promoting that service and making sure that, mob know about it and they access it and they feel comfortable about coming to us as well, and feel comfortable that they're going to get that cultural continuity of support all the way through. So from the initial appointment through the surgery and then the post-op as well. But the big thing for me, and and I know it's a concern through conversations I've had with a couple of the unis as well, is promoting that health services and the access that is available. Yeah.
Do you think hospitals can do better than what they're doing at the moment, or do you think there are some hospitals that have got it right working with Aboriginal people?
There's always room to improve. I don't think we should be complacent. Like, there's still a lot of room for improvement, particularly in the cultural safety area, and making sure that our mob feel comfortable and welcomed and going into a hospital and seeking treatment, and I think more understanding as well. I think that's the big thing. We've had patients who have come to the hospital a couple of times and just haven't had the treatment that they need, and then that's when it's not just our hospital, it's just generally speaking across the board, where they've come to access services, and that takes a lot for them to get there in the first place, to muster up the guts to get there, and then if they don't have the service or they're not treated with respect, that's when they kind of get fired up and get a code grey, and you just sort of think that, to me, that's where the lack of understanding is, and empathy, because you've really got to have that deep thinking, not just thinking the surface thinking. You've got to really think about, what things are attributing to that patient. And it's really a case-by-case basis too. It's not just, a one-size-fits-all as far as when they come. Yeah.
Now, this year is NAIDOC, and it's the year of our elders, for our elders. What does NAIDOC mean to you?
NAIDOC means recognition. It's a great week. It's been a full-on week for me, but it's been a great week to promote our culture and our knowledge, our understanding, and it's about receiving that respect back from white fellas, and hoping that they'll give us more respect and recognition, I suppose, throughout Australia, that we're not just we are important, and we do need to have a voice, and we do need to look after ourselves and our people, and to have that. It's just been a great week. I like it. It's been so good. I'm just like, it's a flirt.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
NAIDOC month.
Yeah, it's full on. It needs to be spaced out over a month so that we can all enjoy it without, the onslaught of a week. Yeah.
So what makes a person an elder in your eyes?
In my eyes, my dad was an elder in the court, and and I just sort of think, that leadership. I just look at him. He was just honoured in the Sir Doug Nicholls round as an honoree for that round in the AFL, and really never really dawned on me before. I knew he worked in the court. In the Koori court in the children's and also for the adults. And for me, he's just dad. And then when he was recognised for this honoree, I just thought, wow, look at all these things he's done, and look what he's been a real trailblazer in community and in the AFL and everything that he's done. And I think that's when it really dawned on me. You know who an elder is, but you just sort of think that leadership role that he's taken and that strength and bravery, and it just made me so proud. And I just think of all those elders out there that, are so gutsy in what they've been doing throughout the year just to advance us mob and just try and get the best for us. No matter what it is, whether it's in education or health or employment, like right across the board, they've been our trailblazers, and I have the utmost respect for them.
Yeah. Do you have any Aboriginal role models yourself?
Look,
It sounds like one.
Well, of course I got my dad. Yeah, that's a given. Look, I love Rachel Perkins. I always love to listen to her, and Cara Mundine, from Reconciliation Australia. She's a ripper. She's always, I'm always hanging off every word that she's got to say. And of course, Auntie Joy Murphy. I mean, she's an absolute, I absolutely adore her, and Auntie Zeta Thompson. So yeah, there's quite a few around. Yeah, Auntie Pam Pedersen. She's always there in amongst it with. So yeah, they're my elders that I look up to.
I was going to say, Auntie Pam, I think, has been around forever, and I think she will be around forever.
Yeah. Look, I just saw her recently, and she's unbelievable. She runs 5K every morning. I just think, God, I struggle to get out of bed, let alone on a 5K. Like, what a legend. So,
I remember a couple of years ago. Sorry.
And she just turned 80 as well. So that's, I feel, yeah.
I keep hearing about her retiring, but every time I hear that she's retiring, I hear that she's doing something else.
I don't think she knows what retirement is. She's such a legend.
Yeah. She's had more retirements than John Farnham's.
John Farnham. I was going to say that.
Yeah. A question I've got is, do you think that, or what are some issues do you think Aboriginal young people face today?
Well, I think employment. And when they do get a job, that advancement and that respect from employees to further them, personal development and that sort of thing. Other challenges, I think, social media, all the stuff that's on social media, and that really worries me. What how it's affecting our young kids. What else? Yeah, employment, education, all those sort of opportunities that, I don't know whether there's enough awareness around that. Like, I sort of think that there's so many opportunities and scholarships and that sort of thing that, again, I don't think are promoted and our kids don't know about. So, yeah. And of course, all their cultural commitments as well. I mean, that goes without saying. That sort of, the cultural load what they have at home, and the drugs and substance abuse. There's so much going on for our young kids, and COVID wasn't any help either with the mental health issues. So yeah, I think there's so many barriers these days that that you've got to be super strong to get through it. Yeah.
Some people do get through it, and some people do struggle a lot.
Mm.
What do you see as some of the positive things that young people can do to overcome some of the barriers?
I think strengthening things that they're good at, like, whether, having that support and the mentorship to advance them even more, like whether they're good at certain sports, and having that support all the way through, no matter what they're into. Just having that great support network, and whether it be, it's not always family, whether it's like a senior leader within their mob, or whether it's another person within that area of what they're studying, or anything along those lines. Yeah.
So you've actually raised two very strong-minded and willed Aboriginal young people.
I have. Yes, I have.
You have. How do you teach young people about culture when you were saying that you were learning it yourself at the same time? How do you make sure that your kids, and possibly in the future your grandkids, actually get that culture that you may not have been able to have yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm really making sure that they are aware and becoming more involved in what's in community. I'm making sure that they attend community functions, get involved that way. As a matter of fact, I wanted them to have a chat with an elder, like just have a one-on-one, because I just feel like there's no point me trying to mentor them when I don't know myself. And I think it's really important that they have mentorship from someone who's able to give them the facts. And I'll probably be there too, front row, listening as well. I'll be getting mentored as well. But I really think and other things too, like that they work at a hospital as well, so they have an understanding of the cultural barriers. So they've learned a lot through working, and they also interpret their feelings and their cultural knowledge through painting as well. They've started their own business, and that's been fantastic. They started that during COVID as an outlet of coping with COVID, being locked up, and just using it as a mindfulness sort of exercise, and allowing them to sort of de-stress as well. So that was like their outlet, and it's going quite well, but but there's a fine balance between that and studying as well. So but it's taught them a lot of skills, and that's been a good thing too.
If you could go back in time and talk to young Nat, what would you like to tell young Nat about life in 2023?
Oh, go back and tell young Nat to be loud and proud about who she is. I think there was a lot of times when I was younger where I had that fear of copping some racist, I copped a lot of racist crap when I was in primary school and secondary school. And because of that, I wouldn't really self-identify. And that was probably, and like I said, I would be really much with my self-identifying, I'd be really much on the down low. Like I wouldn't say much to people, because I always felt that, like, when people say to me, "Oh, are you Italian?" I'd say, "No, I'm Aboriginal." It was almost like that was a trigger for them to say, "Oh, okay, no worries." And they'd say, they'd be really like, they'd be really like, "Oh, that's great," this and that. And then they'd sort of make a beeline away from me. Like, so it was almost, always felt that sort of bit of rejection in that respect. So, but I've learnt to deal with that now, and I've learnt that, you know, I'm going to be loud and proud. Yeah.
Do you have any regrets at all, or things you would like to go back and change?
Yeah, I do have regrets. I wished I had been connected with my family a lot more. I think when my parents separated, like I said, I was with, I didn't have much to do with my family in Shep. And now, you know, once I connected with them on social media and that sort of thing, I still feel like a bit of an outcast, a family outcast, because I've lost those connections over the years, and that's sort of over a span of sort of 30 to 35 years. As much as families, you know, sometimes we don't want to be around them, but you know, there's a lot of time where I just think, God, I don't even know them. Like half of them I'd pass in the street. So that sort of thing, I think, geez, I really wish I was still connected to my sort of extended family. Yeah.
Melbourne's one of the highest transient Aboriginal populations anywhere in Australia, which means we know it's not the local people, so people from everywhere. And we know a lot of people that are not connected at all, but know about their Aboriginality. If someone said to you, hey, I want to know more about who I am, where would you suggest they start?
Gee, that's a really good question. It's a blank one, AJ.
Talking to me.
Yeah, where would you start? I really don't know. I probably haven't thought of it. You know, I have had patients come into the hospital who don't know where they're from, and they say to me, oh, you know, I know I'm Aboriginal, but you know, I've got nothing to prove that I am.
Yeah.
And we're still, you know, or we're still in the process of trying to find that out. And I've quite often said to my colleague, like, that is like, imagine trying to find that out. Like, that's like a needle in a haystack, and trying to find it, you know, your ancestry history. Like, yeah, I really don't know. Probably that'd be something like birth, deaths and marriages, but then, you know, not everyone had a birth certificate. So, yeah, I find that really challenging.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you answered it that way, because I think I want the listeners to actually hear that as well, that there isn't just one way of finding out. It is a journey that someone actually has to do, and it can take quite a long time to do that journey as well.
Take years. Like, yeah, we've had a few patients who, you know, I think of one bloke, and he said, oh, I've been looking for my family for the last 15, 20 years, and he doesn't feel like he's made any headway, you know. But and that to me is really sad, you know. Really sad.
Now, if I could give you a magic wand and said you can change something in Indigenous affairs, or I made you the Indigenous Affairs Minister for the day,
yeah,
what do you want to change? What would you want to see different?
Oh, there's lots of things.
You've got a whole bucket of money as well, so I'm giving you a wand and a bucket of money.
Jesus. Geez, you're pretty generous on a Friday, Arvo.
Yeah.
Geez, you know, I'd love to set up a hostel where, you know, victims of domestic violence, like kids, women and their kids, could come and, like a retreat where they could come and stay and have no time limits, and just really, you know, chill, get on top of things, and, you know, really get that self-confidence back and their identity, and walk out of there really strong and powerful women and being able to deal with anything. I would love to do something like that. Yeah.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah. Somewhere in the Yarra Valley, you know, day spas, all that sort of stuff for our black sisters.
I've got plenty of money. I've got plenty of money coming. And lots of wand waving as well.
Yeah, and for the kids as well, you know, like, yeah, going through traumatic stuff like that, you know, they really need that TLC. So, yeah, be great.
And you mentioned before earlier that people walk around with cultural load, and I know that's a term that gets used a lot.
Yeah.
How do you define cultural load when someone says to you, what does that mean?
Cultural load is when, it's, our people have so much going on in their lives, like, whether they've got things like, they've got rent, they've got to drop the kids off at school, they've got, all those things, all things that we take for granted, like, the general non-Indigenous population take for granted. Aboriginal people have all this sort of stuff, loaded on them. It can vary from, financial to mental to mental is psychological, physical, like all those sort of things, and their family commitments, all those things being loaded on an individual at one time. And cultural load, that can start to really affect your well-being in your whole life, really. So for me, that's what I think it is. Yeah.
I think you described that really well.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think our listeners will get that really well.
Yeah.
What's something that you would like to also see change if I made you a politician tomorrow?
Yeah. What else?
What would be your first platform to look at?
As a positive, well, it'd be the yes vote.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This week we've been showing a fantastic film, Not Just Numbers, and it was so empowering. It was about women in Alice Springs and the way they've turned around domestic violence, and it was about, but the grassroots of it was that they said, we need people at the front line like us fellas, and going to Canberra and voicing our opinion and having that collaborative relationship. And this was a film that was done back in 2019, and I think fast forward to now, 2023, and I think the same issue is same issue is never going to change. But it was just empowering to think that they're making a stance way back 4 years ago, before this referendum even was thought about. And I think it's just so empowering. And after watching, I thought, everyone needs to watch this, because this is how it is, basically, in simple terms. How self-determination can work. We're making decisions for our mob, and the way we need to go about it. And really, really.
I will get a link from you, and so our viewers can actually watch what you're talking about. Oh.
It's on SBS, so I think you can just download it on demand. But
cool.
Yeah, it's really good, fantastic. I encourage everyone to watch it.
Cool. I talked a bit about NAIDOC before, but the two themes that we normally get is reconciliation is another big theme. What does reconciliation mean to you?
Reconciliation means us. Reconciliation to me, and it's a real topic that I absolutely love, and I've been loving it for the last 5 years. It's about us sharing our culture with non-Indigenous Australians and them embracing it and walking together side by side, and just to advance Aboriginal people in Australia today. And it has that beautiful framework from Reconciliation Australia, and which I really think is great. We're up to our Innovate Wrap at the hospital where I work, and we're actually doing our second Innovate Wrap, because although we accomplished all the actions and deliverables in our first wrap, we felt it was good for us to, we basically ticked that we'd completed everything. Yeah. But to actually embed that into the organisation, we weren't quite there, and we hadn't covered employment and education, and that's huge, and it's a huge opportunity that needs to be covered. So we are doing a second one, and it's something I'm extremely passionate about. But yeah, it's just I just love it. I absolutely love it, and I love the whole ethos behind it, because it's basically we are working collaboratively and we're trying to advance reconciliation. Yeah.
I've got a couple of last questions for you, but one question I want to ask you is, what makes a good ally?
I've got a few good allies, and I absolutely adore them, because they're just, they aren't judgmental of us blackfellas. They just take us as they see us, and I love that. And they're just, I've got a couple of orthoptists that work with me down at the eye clinic at VAHS, and they are just the most loving people, and they absolutely adore all the patients as much as I do. And it's about that empathy, it's about that understanding, it's about support. All those words come to mind with the allies that I know. We've even we had an amazing ally who would lead one of our committees at the hospital, and she's just left, but she just retired. But it was sad, because it was like, there goes one of our real trailblazers. She was a great supporter in advancing a lot of the things that we've done at the hospital, just through her support and her leadership, and giving us, we had mutual relationship and mutual respect for one another. And I think that's where that allyship sort of can grow, from that mutual respect and understanding. So I've got plenty of allies, and it's really empowering for me as well. And as an Aboriginal person, you feel good around those people, and you know that you don't have to try and win them over, because they're already won over.
Yeah. What makes somebody, I know we talked about cultural safety before, what makes Aboriginal people feel culturally unsafe?
I think not having those things, around those obvious visual things when they come into any sort of building, or just attitude from people as well. If you're respectful, and you're understanding, it's great. When you come into a building and there's some Aboriginal artwork up, that makes them feel safe. If that's not in the building and they can't see something that they know that there's that respect already there, then that's when that feeling of not feeling safe comes into it. Yeah.
Look, my final question is where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I see myself doing the same thing, or something within the same role, where I'm linked up to community. I think having that contact with community and making them feel safe. I just love being around them. I love being around community and involved in it, and it makes me feel safe. I feel like I'm welcomed and I belong in that in amongst mob, and it's probably the first time in my life where I've actually felt safe and felt good, and it's a warm feeling inside, and I don't think I've had that before growing up. And so I'd like to continue working within the Aboriginal space. I don't think I'll go back to my design career unless I do something within sort of the artwork sort of space. But apart from that, I really do enjoy what I'm doing, and I love my colleague that I work with. We're like yin and yang, and I've learned a lot from her, because she's had 30 years in the health industry, and so she's been a fantastic mentor for me. And I think when she retires, I'll be retiring too, because I can't live without her. She's a ripper. And I've learned a lot of cultural knowledge from her. Our mobs are next door to each other. She's Tanarung and I'm Yorta Yorta. So yeah, I have learned a lot of cultural knowledge through her. So yeah, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Yeah.
So from our yarn this afternoon, what do you want people to walk away with? What would you want them to walk away with from our conversations?
I think just to know that, you know, even if you are a black fella and you don't have much to do with sort of community, just know that you're, just know that, you know, you just be strong within yourself and know that your identity, you know, be strong with your identity, know, be loud and proud, like I said before, and yeah, just own it, as my sister girl always says to me, just own it. You know, you're a proud, strong Aboriginal woman, so just own it. And I say, yeah, I am, aren't I? You know, so yeah, it's good.
Sometimes we just need that reminder every now and then, don't we?
Yeah, we do, because you sort of think, oh, you know, it's about that acceptance in society as well, you know, of your identity. So yeah, she's always, you know, she's always making me feel confident of who I am, which is great.